welcome to the inaugural Women in Data Summit 2024. I want to acknowledge several people who have arrived, and I hope you've done this. You've scanned the QR code. Have you scanned the QR code? Not yet. Can you put it back, Baker? All right. So I want to acknowledge a very long-time Deputy Governor, Nandi County. I'm not being political, but can I say she should be the next governor of Nandi County? I did not say that. If we're talking about women in data, we're talking about women in leadership. I am rooting for women governors around the country. Amen. Just say amen and agree with me. I also want to acknowledge agenda advisor. I know you don't know there's agenda advisor in the president's office. There's also agenda. There's a women's rights advisor. There's agenda advisor in the president's office. Please, madam, please rise up so that they can see you. Thank you very much. We have Madam SG herself, Secretary Gender, Ministry of Gender, State Department of Gender and Affirmative Action. It's a mouthful, so please stand up. Josephine Obonyo, Dr. Josephine Obonyo. And if I massacre your name, please forgive me. We have Director Awes from Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, the people who collect the data for us. Thank you very much. We have my colleague, Masiga Asunza from the Office of the Women's Rights Advisor, representing our office today. Now, you could be wondering why all these representatives. So we were expecting my boss, Madam Harriet Chigai, CS Harriet Chigai, but they were called last night. There's a meeting in the State House. That is why she's not here. You know, this is her meeting. So she would have given everything to be here. But she can't be here because the meeting was early morning, but she'll join us in the course of the day. All right? So can we... Let me try this one. All right. I also want to acknowledge partners that have made this possible. I had mentioned Groots Kenya and Your Excellency, Madam DG, there's an organization called Groots Kenya. They have brought in women from across the country, grassroots women, to be in the room. So in the discussions we are going to have, we will have the infusion of the lived experiences of women in the health sector, in GBV, in land issues, in women economic empowerment. So I really appreciate the team for doing that. But they were also part of the planning. I also want to appreciate LDRI. Can we do something about these mics? I want to appreciate LDRI, Local Development Research Institute. They were the co-chairs of this summit. Can we just wave? Mushiri did a very good job this morning. Thank you very much. I also want to appreciate Landesa. They'll be taking us through the lunch session. Please appreciate them. We've done the spirit for this summit to happen. We've done the spirit of Kidogo Ufanya Nini. Yes, so we've done the Harambee spirit to make this event happen. I also want to acknowledge Mzalendo in absentia. I don't know if they're here, but Mzalendo in absentia. I also want to acknowledge SDGs Kenya Forum. They've been our partners as an office, but they're also our partners in this summit. Appreciate SDG Kenya Forum. I see Florence and the team seated behind there. Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, who are our key data collectors in this country. Please appreciate Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, but also acknowledging the fact that through this office, we are able now to acknowledge citizen-generated data. Unisikia which country? Unisikia work. So only in Kenya, we are able to accept citizen-generated data, use it, and amplify it, and use it for development. When you hear something nice like that, you say amen. Thank you very much. And then I also want to acknowledge other partners. They might not have been involved in the planning, but they are supporting and leading sessions. We have Kenyatta University. They will be leading us in the women economic empowerment sector. You know, as a country, the Better Plan is really benched on women economic empowerment. We also have a health sector, which is also a critical factor within the Women's Charter. APHRC are leading us in that sector, so please appreciate them. They'll be leading that session. Have I forgotten anyone? Wonderful. Did I forget anyone? Oh, how did I forget education? You know, far away, when I was a young girl, and yes, I'm still young, thank you very much. When I was a young girl, and I started out as a journalist, my first ever award, I got it through FAWE. I was writing a lot about representation of girls in education. I was writing a lot about the gaps within the education sector, matters, menstrual, how do we call it nowadays? Menstrual hygiene, but I call it menstrual justice, you know, so that women, young girls can get sanitary towels, and with an act of parliament in 2013, girls can be able to get sanitary towels. So they were the first one to give me an award. So please, accolades to FAWE. Thank you very much. They noticed the little journalist in me when I was writing stories about women and girls. I mentioned Ms. Alendo. I need to mention policy. I should have just looked right here. Policy. Please appreciate policy. And of course, I need to also appreciate Data 2X. Data 2X. And also Governors, Council of Governors. Yeah, and Data Protection. The Office of Data Protection, Commission of Data Protection. And also, I want us to appreciate the Office of the Women's Rights Advisor. Thank you very much. So without much further ado, I have received apologies from PS. I believe it is the same matter, and that's why she's not here. So please accept her apologies. I know that in the closing ceremony, most of these people will be here. And if you haven't seen the program, there is a QR code for scanning for the program so that you can be able to follow through. We majored in this conference to follow the theme of innovation, financing, and status of women in the data. And so after the opening remarks, we'll have a high-level session where we're looking at what the situation of women in data in this country. Then we'll have breakaway sessions where we go discuss the issue. So this is the program. Please scan so that you know which room you are supposed to go in, and then we will move on from there. Make sure you scan so that you get the program. It keeps on changing. That's why it is better not to kill trees. Thank you. All right. So I want us to get to the official session, and I will start with Madam SG. You will come and give us a speech from the PS Anne Wangombe, who is the PS in the Ministry of Gender, and then followed by Masiga Asunza, who is representing CS Harriet, to read her speech. Asanteni sana. Please welcome SG Dr. Josephine. Can we get better mics? You clap for her until she arrives. Oh, thank you for that. Thank you.
All protocols observed. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Am I clear? Okay. So first and foremost, maybe I just introduce myself. My name is Dr. Josephine Obonyo, Secretary Gender at the State Department for Gender and Affirmative Action. Now, secondly, just like as you've already been informed by Florence, I send also the apologies, sincere apologies from the Principal Secretary. She's not able to be here with us, but as it has been explained, she may possibly join us later. Now, at the same time, I'd also just like to mention that she sends her greetings and really appreciates each one who is here, because this process clearly and fits into the agenda of the State Department for Gender. And I'll go straight ahead and give her remarks. Now, honorable guests, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, it is my great honor to be able to address you at this high-level Women and Data Summit, a critical gathering aimed at advancing gender equality through innovation, data, and sustainable financing. As we convene here today, we are reminded of our collective responsibility to dismantle the barriers that perpetuate inequality and hinder the realization of a just and equitable society. Now, data is a cornerstone of informed decision-making and effective policy implementation. In the context of gender-based violence, data provides a critical lens through which we can understand the scale, nature, and impact of violence. Now, with accurate and comprehensive gender data, we can move beyond anecdotal evidence and address gender-based violence with targeted and evidence-based strategies. At the core of sustainable and equitable development lies the power of data. Now, without reliable, comprehensive, and disaggregated gender data, our efforts to advance gender equality will remain incomplete. Now, we need data to make informed policy decisions, design impactful programs, and assess the effectiveness of our interventions. It is through data that we uncover gaps, understand the true extent of inequality, and track our progress towards achieving gender parity. Ladies and gentlemen, as a nation, Kenya remains committed to advancing gender equality, and we believe in the power of collaboration to achieve this goal. We welcome partnerships with regional and international bodies to ensure we are effectively financing and innovating for gender data. Together, we can elevate Africa as a hub for gender-responsive innovation, ensuring that the needs of women and girls across the continent are not only heard, but also met. This summit is not just an opportunity for dialogue, but it is a call to action. Our discussions must translate into concrete commitments, and those commitments must lead to measurable outcomes. Let us leave here today with a renewed sense of purpose and a shared vision, which is a world where every woman and girl has an opportunity to thrive, and where data guides our decisions, and also where innovation fuels our progress. As we go ahead, let us harness the power of data to craft solutions so that not only do we have effective but also achieve an equitable society. I also call upon all stakeholders to collaborate closely, share knowledge, and work together to enhance our data systems. Let us commit to a data-driven approach in our fight against gender-based violence, which is rampant in our society at the moment, and especially with regards to femicide. ensuring that our strategies are informed by evidence and grounded in the realities faced by those affected. I appreciate your dedication and your commitment to this crucial cause, and let us continue to work with resolve and solidarity to end gender-based violence and create a future where every individual can live free from fear and intimidation. I wish to commend all the partners and stakeholders who have made this summit possible. I thank you, and I look forward to the fruitful discussions and outcomes of this very important summit. Thank you very much, and God bless you.
Imagine she hasn't sat. All right, thank you very much, Madam SG, for your comments. I mean, the comments from the PS. We appreciate them, and we continue to say, with the one government in mind, we continue working together to ensure that the issues of women and girls are at the center of our development as a country. I now want to welcome my colleague, Masiga Asunza, who will read the speech on behalf of Honorable Harriet Chigai. Please appreciate him. Until he comes, he's usually shy.
Habari zenu. Habari zenu. Si tuna furaha leo kwa sababu nadhani tuko na kongamano la kwanza kabisa ambalo linazungumzia mambo ya takwimu na wakina mama, sivyo? So ni vyema tuko hapa, na nadhani lazima tufurahie wote, na labda wengine wenu mnashangaa ni vipi kuna mwanaume ambaye amesimama hapa akitoka kwa afisi ya mshauri ya mambo ya haki ya kina mama. Sisi tuko pale kama wale ambao tunasaidia na tunahimiza na pia tunaendeleza haki za kina mama. Sawa sawa. Thank you so much. I'm going to read the speech on behalf of Honorable Harriet Chigai, who's the Women's Rights Advisor to the President of the Republic of Kenya under the Executive Office of the President. The Secretary Gender, the Gender Advisor from the Executive Office of the President, the Director from Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, and the Deputy Governor and County Government of Nandi. And in my other life, we've been able to interact with her within her county, doing some work also at the grassroots level. Good morning. Allow me to acknowledge the many grassroots women that I represent who have made it to this summit. Karibuni sana. Your input will be invaluable. This office was set specifically on matters of women's rights. We exist to advise the President and advocate for the women's rights within the government and across board, by ensuring coordination across government agencies on the same and the implementation of the Women's Charter and the bottom-up economic transformation agenda. Many have asked me, why the Women in Data Summit? One of the key priorities of this office is to ensure coordination of matters concerning women's rights. For that reason, we are here to county governments and civil society to ask ourselves, where are the women and girls in data? I invite you to look at the gender data with the lens of evidence for decision-making, innovation, and financing to build the status of women in data. Again, why should we spotlight women and girls in data? Allow me to explain. The world today is increasingly data-driven. From healthcare to education, finance to agriculture, data is a cornerstone of decision-making, innovation, and progress. However, The landscape of data collection, analysis, and utilization often remains skewed, overlooking the valuable contribution and experiences of women. Women, who constitute half of the population, are often underrepresented and marginalized in data-related activities. This underrepresentation has significant implications for policy development, resource allocation, and the overall well-being of women in Kenya. While this is a global question, we choose to use this summit as a starting point to address the gaps that exist in the different sectors, areas that His Excellency the President is keen on. Looking at the care work, we can all agree that as the world endures multiple intersecting crises of unprecedented proportion, including climate change, ongoing and worsening conflicts, the COVID-19 pandemic, the resilience of care systems and the care economy is being tested. How will we measure this without data that is nuanced on the specific challenges that women face and contribution within the care economy? Ensure you join the care work session that is scheduled for today. I am glad to be working together with the Ministry of Gender to shape policy on this matter and the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics to ensure that we have continuous engagements on matters of time use. Let's also take a look at the health, which is also a sector focus in this summit. The gender data bias in the realm of healthcare, where medical research and treatment protocols often fail to account for the biological and physiological differences between women and men, hinders our understanding of women's experiences, needs, and therefore can easily lead us to make biased policies, provide inadequate services, and have missed opportunities. Ladies and gentlemen, this brings us to the most important question. Why must women and girls remain visible in data? You can only count if you are counted. It is only until recently that the law allowed women to inherit land. I hope we are answering that question in our minds. Huh? Okay, thank you. Have we adequately addressed the disparity in the land ownership? Is there something we are missing on matters land and inheritance? As I traverse the country, I meet with widows, and the challenges of inheritance and land ownership are still as real as they were before the Law of Succession Act. Those that will attend the land session help us see where the data gaps are and how we can finance and innovate on the same. Because numbers make a better case when advocating for women's rights. Women's participation in data-related field is essential for promoting inclusion and equitable development. If I had time, I would sit in the Women Working in Data session, but I'm happy to hear what that session brings out to help us to be innovative in how we conduct research that includes 50.5% of the Kenya's population. When women have a voice in the data ecosystem, their perspectives and priorities are more likely to be reflected in decision-making processes. I am sure the grassroots women in the room will be a huge asset in this session. I still struggle with how women are represented in the media. And that is why within this summit, we have a workshop focused specifically on gender data for media. We need to take note that the stories we tell ourselves are often marked disfigured by a female-shaped, absent presence. That is the gender data gap. The absence of such data is not only just about the missing function of our society and the experience, but they have serious consequences on development. A society that leaves half of its population behind is doing a disservice to itself, since half of its potential is not tapped and their stories are not told. Overall, ladies and gentlemen, Several efforts are in place to strengthen data collection, analysis, and dissemination in government. This is essential for informed decision-making and effective policies to promote gender equality. The government of Kenya has strengthened statistical systems by investing in training and capacity building for data collectors and analysts, and also agreed to include citizen-generated data. We are also conducting targeted surveys and collecting data on specific areas where gender disparities are prevalent. And through a summit like this one, we are promoting data use by encouraging policymakers and researchers to use gender disaggregated data and take targeted actions to improve our capacity to collect, manage, use, and share this data for decision making. Ladies and gentlemen, you all remember that after studies were conducted over the years, we as a nation realized that girls miss a large portion of school days due to lack of sanitary towels. This data helped the National Assembly to advocate for the amendment of the Education Act 2013 that obligated the government to provide this commodity to girls in public schools as a measure of ensuring they stay in school. A classic case of data informing policy and eventually providing evidence for the right investment. Going forward, we must ensure our data collection methods remain unbiased to avoid excluding or underrepresenting women's experiences. On final illustration is what we are facing as a nation today on matters intimate partner violence and technology-facilitated gender-based violence. While the government has put in laws as well as capacity within law enforcement and investigation agencies, we still need to strengthen forensics so that the data helps us track trends. My office is championing a national data framework in this regard. This will require investment to collect real-time data that informs response services and tracks trends. This is particularly important when we consider that women and girls are not homogeneous, and therefore, the data of women in Samburu County might not be the representative of the nuances of those in Kibera, for example. That's how micro we must go as a nation to allow us to really promote women's rights. At the same time, we recognize that certain cultural and social norms limit women's participation in public life and decision-making. This impedes their involvement in data-related activities. Such norms discourage women from sharing their experiences or participating in surveys and research. And in many cases, concerns about privacy and security also make women hesitate to share personal data. Our summit must push for the creation of a supportive framework and policy environment that promotes gender equality in data-related fields. Institutions are encouraged to adopt policies and practices that promote diversity and inclusion. We must also call for data collection methods that are designed to include women's perspectives and experiences. This can be done through use of culturally appropriate language, provision of safe and confidential spaces for women to share their experiences, and ensuring that women are adequately represented in data collection teams. And of course, we must also embark on high-level awareness creation among our stakeholders and general public on the importance of women's visibility in data. Importance of women's visibility in data and advocating for policies that support gender equality in data. In conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, one of the things that has become clear while planning this summit is the fact that there needs to be a better gender data coordination. across sectors to ensure decisions are holistic. If the data in the Ministry of Education is not in sync with the Ministry of Health, especially on matters affecting adolescents, then we are not able to speak from the same page and therefore authoritatively address their challenges. When we only have data on GBV speaking on those of 15 to 49 years and none for the 50 plus years and below 14 years, we miss out on critical investments that need to be made to address issues that affect the age sets that miss from the data. When county statistics are not clear, we also miss out on making the right development decisions at that level. Ladies and gentlemen, it is time we address closing the capacity and financing gaps that make it a challenge from moving from intention to action in addressing gender data gaps. Let's leverage on our partners who are willing and able to support the development of gender data improvement roadmaps and training of our grassroots champions. Together we can go much further than as a government alone. I urge you to join me in advocating for women's visibility in data in Kenya. Let us commit to work together to break down barriers, promote diversity, and ensure that women's voices are heard. It is now my pleasure to declare this inaugural Women in Data Summit officially opened. Thank you.
I appreciate him even as he sits down. I think for me, the biggest highlight in that speech is intention to action. That beyond the conversations we're going to have, there has to be an intent within our office, within KNBS, within the Ministry of Gender, within the county governments to actually act and do what we need to do to ensure that women and girls remain visible, and where they are invisible, make them visible. Nilisema nikisema kitu mzuri unasema? Thank you very much. And so, intention to action. That is our intention for this summit. We want to, is it me or is it the mic? It seems it's me. Okay, here. All right, I'm used to the other ones. All right, so intention to action is what we want to do in this summit. And as we bring the panelist seats here so that we have the next panel, I want the video to be played. There are two videos I want us to play even as we set up this panel to set the tone for the conversations we're going to have during this summit. As we do that, as I wait for the seats to come, our hashtag is hashtag Women in Data KE. Women in Data KE. And then the other hashtag is Gender Data KE. Those are our two hashtags. The team, please. The seats so that we can move faster. We are running behind schedule. In other news, I will ask the gentleman in the room to help. Just put the seats instead of waiting for the hotel. And we put the seats there. And I remember sometimes the boss tells us, we are sitting in the office, what new information do we have about what women are experiencing so that we can be able to advise the president accordingly. So for this session, one more video I just wanted us to do. We are here talking about research, and we are here talking about data. And so I want us to watch this one as well, Accelerating Gender Data in Research and Development, and then we start the panel. The panel will be short and sweet, don't worry. She actually this year, she won the Best Female Deputy Governor of the Year award at the second edition of the Independent Kenya Woman Award. Please clap for her. She is also has been the best performing deputy governor nationally at the fourth edition of East Africa Talent Awards in Machakos in September last year. So she's the best performing, this year, she's the best performing deputy governor. I don't know about yours, but she's the best performing deputy governor in the country. And so we appreciate you, madam, for coming. Please come, take your seat. We'll have a short discussion. Please appreciate her as she's coming. She's also a first in terms of, she was the first female deputy governor in the North Rift region. So she's also has a science and engineering background. And so we appreciate you, Madam Governor. Madam I'm already calling you governor on behalf of 2027. So please have a seat. Thank you very much. I had the pleasure of working with her when they were setting up a call center on matters GBV in Nandi County in my other life before I got to this office. So I appreciate you for making time. I called her at a very short notice and she was like, I will be there. And so we appreciate you, madam. And you know, when women work, they really go an extra mile, isn't it? Sindio? Even the men are nodding. The women go an extra mile. Also, I want to call Director West from Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, representing the DG, Director General, Ken BS. Please appreciate him as he comes. We work very closely with this office. Appreciate him until he sits down. It's okay. All right. We also have Dr. Josephine Obonyo, the SG, State Department of Gender. We have to hear matters policy. Karibu sana. We also have Dr. Sylvia Muyingo from APHRC. They do a lot of research. One of my experiences as well as a communicator is working with APHRC on a very huge conference some time back, and they used to provide me with the data I need for my stories. Appreciate her until she sits down. Okay, thank you. Please appreciate my panel. And so we are going to just have a small discussion around data so that we can understand from the perspective of the county government, from the perspective of the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, and also from the perspective of Ministry of Gender in terms of policy, and also from the researchers themselves, APHRC. And so, ladies and gentlemen, I'm happy we at least have a gentleman on the panel. So, quick one, I will start with the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics. And I think the question in everybody's mind is, where are the gaps when it comes to women in data? Where are the gaps? You are the ones on the ground. And they say, kwa ground vitu ni different. So what are the gaps that exist in your perspective?
Okay, thank you very much. Before I start, I would like, first of all, to say whether we are complying with the 2/3 gender rule here. I am feeling threatened. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, Kenya National Bureau of Statistics is a government agency which is charged with our responsibility of collecting, analyzing, and disseminating data. And it is the custodian of the official statistics, as well as it coordinates the national statistical system. So to answer the moderator's question, first of all, let me say what data is available For the last 10 years, I can say we have collected a number of gender statistics, and in most cases, we have collected in the area of education, reproductive health, nutrition, social and economic financial inclusion, governance, GVV, employment, agriculture, and recently, time use. And in time use, my colleague will do the presentation of the national accounts and gender statistics in the afternoon. And we are trying to see whether we can include the contribution of women in the national accounts, in GDP. So there are some areas which we have identified with gaps. One of the areas is the women and the environment. We have a big gap there. That is, if I can be very specific, mainly on women and climate change. I think this is a challenge for us, and there's a gap in that area. And we are trying as much as possible to collect, because even climate change is an emerging issue. The other area maybe we might talked about where we have a challenge is the technology facilitated violence. That is one of the areas we have been having some challenges in collecting data. So I can just talk of the two for now, but these are some of the areas we feel we need to do a lot so that we can have data in those two areas. Otherwise, there could be others which I might not have them right now, but still we have gaps. Even within some of those sectors I've mentioned, still we have gaps within them, and we have some indicators we collect for them. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So you've highlighted a very important issue, which is technologically facilitated GBV, and I see SG nodding. SG, maybe you can tell us, in matters policy, what can we do to then now be able to have either a policy or guidance around a framework for having data that is in sync, that we can all read from one page. So I'm asking SG, Dr. Josephine, to respond to that.
Okay. Thank you very much. Now, maybe just to pick up from where he has left, with regards to technology, hello, is this mic okay? You can hear me? Yeah, with regards to data regarding, I think it's okay. Now, in the speech that I read earlier on, the speech, the remarks by the Principal Secretary for the State Department for Gender and Affirmative Action. Now, one thing that you may have noted was emphasis on issues around GBV. Now, I mentioned that again because of issues around technology-assisted gender-based violence, which is rampant at the moment, and it's actually, I can literally call it a silent killer. Mm-hmm. That, along with femicide, is something that at the moment is really something we need to work around data. And therefore, with regards to technology, you find that it is a double-edged sword, if you ask me. So that on one hand, definitely it has taken us miles. We've been able to listen to women at the grassroots who are not here with us, but I think their voice resonates with what we are saying here. That is all by the help of technology. But at the same time, you realize that that same technology, the other end of the sword, actually has even led to people not only becoming suicidal, but actually committing suicide, especially young women. It goes right from body shaming to just, generally women, and especially young women who are usually very sensitive, in adolescent age, and with technology, ending up, just feeling they've lost everything. Now, but at the same time, with regards to policy issues, definitely there's a need for financing, resource mobilization towards that direction, so that we can come up with clear policy frameworks that can be able to assist us in collaboration with different stakeholders to come up with clear policy guidelines to help us to be able to handle issues of technology, and especially technology-assisted GBV. Now, regarding that, at the same time, I think it's important to mention that we need data first. For us to be able to come up with data that can be able to guide processes, first and foremost, we must have proper data to guide us then to be able to come up with policies. Now, as a State Department, we have a dedicated directorate that runs around policy, data, and documentation. We have 4 different directorates, one for socioeconomic, one for data, one that deals with gender mainstreaming in general, and then we have another one that deals specifically with gender-based violence. But specifically with regards to the policy directorate, we've been working very closely with KNBS to be able to come up with data that can be able to inform policy. And therefore, still, I would just like to emphasize that we call upon the different stakeholders so that we can be able to come up with resources to give us policies that can guide us appropriately. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I want to go to Her Excellency, the Deputy Governor. How has Nandi been collecting data to inform development, for example? Because at the county level, you also need real-time data to help you know where to plan in terms of how to plan. How has that been for your county?
Thank you very much. Nandi County is one of the counties that is blessed to have a very youthful population as well as a youthful leadership. When we came, I'm serving with His Excellency Governor Sang for a second term. I came in with him in 2017, and by 2018, 2019, we were already thinking about how to enhance service delivery through technology. And among the things that we embraced was on the DigiCow program for farmers. We also established a call center in Nandi County. I think we were the first county to have a call center. Most call centers came after COVID, but we were among the first counties to have a call center, which served as an interface between us and the citizens. It became an opportunity, a platform for the citizens to engage with government and for government to engage with citizens. For example, we were able to follow up on patients who have been served at our county referral hospital, so that we are able to ensure that whatever medication they received is serving them back at home. Secondly, it became a platform for us to be able to just conduct surveys and get a feel of what is happening down in the grassroots, but also it became a platform for the citizens to inquire on services. When they needed an ambulance, they would report. When they needed AI animal assistant to be able to serve their animals, they would call, and we have a code 1548. And each time they would call, then they are referred to the nearest AI as animal assistant. Now, when COVID came, and a lot of focus was placed on teen pregnancies, it became a platform for after the data for teen pregnancies was shared and became a national conversation. We then took the initiative as leaders at that point to just go out and reach out to the girl child and do a lot of sensitization. And out of that, as we were doing the sensitization, we began to speak about gender-based violence, about sexual abuse, about children rights and things like those. And after that, we received a lot of calls through our call center, people reporting the incidences, reporting children violations, reporting domestic violence, reporting issues that are touching on GBV. So with that data, we have been able to have a better understanding of where we are as a community, but also through the call center agents who are capacity built to be able to handle cases of reports, to manage the reports, and to be able to first of all, to do counseling for the victims and survivors, but also to refer them to the areas that they needed to be supported. Along the way, we established a gender-based violence recovery center within our county referral hospital. And that way, we provided almost an end-to-end. You have a platform to report, and you have a place where survivors can be assisted, counseling can be administered, those who need hospital care can receive, those who need to be referred to the justice system, we work with the police and the courts. So that is part of what we have been able to do by innovating, providing a platform, the call center, where people can report and for us to be able to intervene and to respond. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that illustration. It just goes to show you collect the data, you listen to the people, you make an investment of a GBVRC center, and then you're able to reach here. You want to add something?
I want to add that Nandi County elected in 2020, 2021 to join the Open Governance Partnership. And out of that, beyond the call center platform, we have now moved to have an open data desk so that at the click of a button, you can get information about Nandi. Our health sector, for example, we are able to generate data on daily basis. And it helps us to know how we are doing, what kind of diseases are prevalent at particular seasons. It also helps us to know the patient volumes, how the patients are coming in, what kind of ailments are being addressed. And then we are also looking at our stockouts. How are our medical supplies moving? And that way it helps us to also just help us with planning on procurement. Thank you.
Wonderful. Now you see why she came, right? Thank you very much, Madam DG. APHRC, the center has been doing a lot of research, Dr. Sylvia. And one of the things that puzzles me, just me, and especially because of the area where I lead in our office, is the issue of adolescents and research not to speaking to each other in terms of Ministry of Health will have research on pregnancies, but we are missing out, from my perspective, the nuances of these adolescents. We are also missing out on the below 14, for example, in the data. What has been your experience and what solution do you think we can have as a country or apply innovatively to be able to bridge that gap?
Yeah, thank you so much. I hope you can hear me.
Yeah.
Yeah, first of all, I want to talk about a little bit about the center itself. So the center, the African Population and Health Research Center, is a research center that really looks at generating the evidence that informs policy as a key priority for the center. But just going back to the question that you asked, in terms of generating the evidence, we have done as a center a lot of work within, especially within adolescents, but also within Kenya and across Africa, that informs what we do or the interventions that work. And one of the key things I think that also was highlighted a lot during COVID is the work around teenage pregnancies, that is looking at who, where it's happening, and how. So, and how do we approach it? So one of the key things we do is to actually show the evidence, what is happening on the ground in terms of generating data. And data needs to be informative in many ways, because we understand that gender is one of those aspects in many ways that influences the discrimination that happens, particularly in the health sector. And one of the things that we try to address is to address the issues around gender, even within adolescents. So if we have data, or if we generate data, the issues that marginalize individuals, be it adolescents or even adults, are around the intersectionalities that exist. So the unique attributes of individuals that we ignore, whether somebody lives in a rural area, whether they come from a poor socioeconomic status, their experience, their environment in which they live, whether they have access to education, whether they have access to resources, and what benefits accrue to those individuals. So even with teenagers, being able to disaggregate the data to the point that we can identify those unique dynamics for each individual to be able to address where the problems are is really critical. And one of the things that we try to highlight is to identify those characteristics that help us to disaggregate the data and understand the nuances that exist within the data. So be it teenagers, it's not enough for us to say, to recognize the social stratifiers that discriminate individuals. So it's not enough to say in our constitution that we disaggregate data by social class, by disability, but then we don't produce the evidence to show those stratifiers. So that's one of the key aspects I think that we need to deal with. And we at the center try to provide that evidence through the lens, a gender lens, that is looking at not just the girls, adolescents, but also the boys, because discrimination can happen for each and every one of them in different ways. So I think in terms of the other issues that we need to address is around the legislatures that actually help us to understand where they sit in their positions, be it adolescents. How do we support the legislature that helps them to experience life in their environment and to be able to address those nuances? Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'll go back to the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics. So we have agreed that we have gaps. We have seen across initiatives that are there. Maybe from your lens, from where you sit at the national level, what are some of the initiatives and by who? You've already mentioned in Matters Climate, you've also mentioned in TFGBV. So are there any initiatives being taken to help address that?
Okay, there are a number of initiatives you are doing. One of it is the collaboration with non-state actors, where we explore new data methods or data sources, like the citizen-generated data. Also, we are also exploring data, the learning machines, and artificial intelligence. We are actually starting, but for the citizens-generated, we are trying to validate the data from the non-state actors, whereby we validate actually, and to make it to be official. So far, we have done that to International Center for Reproductive Health, ICRHK, and the Ministry of Health as our agenda. We validate it and make it official so that we can use it to report for the international commitments we have, like the SDGs and so on, even at the national level. Again, we're also trying to capacity build the county governments. We are training them on how to handle statistics. We have done so far like 10 county governments, and this one we are doing it with the support of UNFPA. Again, we are also reprocessing some of the data, like the SDG, on the ownership of mobile phones. We are also, for the time use, there's also the proportion of the time used in domestic and unpaid work. This one will be presented by my colleague. There are a number of issues we are also doing. We are also increasing collaboration with stakeholders, like in the national statistical ecosystem. I've told you that we are the custodian of the national statistical system. This one mainly addresses the MDS and the counties, but now we are going beyond by having the data ecosystem, where we now involve also the non-state actors for production of the statistics. I can give you, for example, we have a program with the UN Women, and here they are supporting us in the production of the production and use of the data. Other initiatives could be, okay, I've said it, the collaboration with non-state actors to collect the data, the CDG and so on. I think those are some of the initiatives. And again, we also providing data to data users. We provide both raw data, and this one is mainly for the researchers, for the government departments, and public in general. For example, the researchers, as Madam have said here, you are going to use the data maybe to do more further analysis. So once we process the data, we provide that data to you people so that you can undertake some of the research or further analysis. This is an area I think we need to get support from you people. Use our data so that we can also do further analysis.
It seems you guys are not using the data, Rachel. You are not using the data, so it needs to be produced and consumed. And I think in the CARES, during the International Day for Care and Support, I think I want to spotlight the issue of how have we used the time use survey so far, and how is it speaking to us, and is it helping us make a difference? So thank you very much for reminding us. Yeah, so DG will pick it up, SG will pick it up from there, Dr. Josephine, and as you're answering, maybe you could tell us how can we bridge some of these gaps as you respond to whether you're actually using his data.
Okay, yeah, thank you so much, and I would like to appreciate that. And I think with regards to data, that's why even you said earlier, and I think we're emphasizing, and the essence of this summit is not only to request and ask for that data and that it's collected properly, but to be able to utilize it, yeah, so that we improve the position, the position and condition of women and girls in this country in particular. But with regards to the time use survey, yeah, again, these are in collaboration with UN Women and KNBS. We've been able to actually, it really highlighted the role of women. You know, if you look at a 24-hour clock, yeah, the cycle, what do women do? What do men do? What do boys do? What do girls do? And I think if we look critically, and I like the presentation, the video that we watched earlier on, where we're being reminded that as between men and women, it comes to career progression. When a man and a woman, for example, start off their career, is it me? When a man and a woman start off their career at the same time, what are the chances of a female being able to be at par with a male? All things constant. Yeah? It's me. All things constant. If you look at a scope of maybe 10 years, what are the chances of they being at par? And I think we're getting some of the responses from this forum, where when, for example, you're able to take care of both the reproductive and the productive roles of women, then as we've seen as happening with one organization, just as an example, then women are also able to progress. Now, the Time Use Survey then was able to help us with regards to the care policy that has been developed. And the care policy looked at issues around unpaid care work. And one thing is for sure, every role that everybody plays really matters. And when we are able to look at the care policy, you'll realize that it has captured all those aspects. And all that was made possible because data was available. And as they say, data doesn't lie. And through that data, it was very glaring at how a lot of domestic and unpaid care work is taken for granted, and the need for it even to be included in our GDP. Now, the other issue is the issue of the gaps. How do we look at bridging those gaps? And I think some of the issues, as we're discussing, have already been raised, but I think among them also maybe that has probably not been emphasized because KNBS have been able to explain some of them, is the need to also build the capacity of practitioners. Because the more people are able to collect proper data and be able to collect it, analyze it properly, the better. Because one of the challenges that is there is today, for example, there are a lot of institutions, different stakeholders who are here today. Assuming there was adequate funding by governments and, there's just funding for us to be able to collect data, do we have the capacity as institutions to be able to collect that data and to be able to analyze it so that then it's data that is useful? Do we have that capacity? And I think then a lot of resources and effort need to be put in to ensure that different stakeholders are able to do proper data collection. Because I know KNBS is there and a few other institutions that are there to assist us, but at the end of the day, they cannot be everywhere. Yes, they can come in to give support, but if capacity is built at institutional level, then I think that can be very helpful. Now, maybe the other issue also with regards to what can be done is sometimes you find that there's duplication of effort, so that you come across different data that has been collected by different institutions, and then there are little discrepancies here and there, but what is glaring is the fact that that duplication is not necessary, because if institutions can collaborate better, and as State Department for Gender and Affirmative Action, because we are talking about gender, data around gender issues, then it's important that we are able to coordinate so that regarding a particular issue, if there are resources, then these resources are put together, and then through then the support, and here is technical support from KNBS, then these resources can be put together and we're able to gather data that can be used across the board. Now, one thing is clear, when we listen to the CS's remarks earlier on, it was clear that it was pointed that definitely there's no, we cannot talk about homogeneity, be it among girls, boys, women, and men, because definitely issues will be then, and data will be context-specific according to different areas. However, we can collect data that is representative, that can be utilized across the board, by and large. And at the same time, if funds are put together, then the scope can be widened. And once the scope is widened, then it's representative data that then can be put in use. Otherwise, if it's done in a fragmented manner, then we have same information, data for similar information in different corners, and sometimes when you try to look at all this data, then you find that there's quite a bit of discrepancy. And therefore, it's a call for us to collaborate more. And how do we then collaborate? Is by us being able, through such forums and others, to be able to share information and to know who is doing what. That way, we're able to work together and come up with data that can be used across the board. But one thing is for sure, the care policy is one such result of data that has been utilized properly because the information is there and the gaps can clearly be identified. Thank you.
Thank you very much. As you talk about matters capacity, I think I'll take it to the Deputy Governor and ask you, Madam Deputy Governor, I know the Council of Governors Secretariat has been trying to work with counties in terms of training to have gender data sheets. How has that been for you as a county, and do you have gender data sheets?
Thank you very much. One of the realities that we've had to contend with is the fact that for most of us in counties, we know that gender is not devolved. So even when we are doing funding and we are appropriating resources, we underfund that unit. And Council of Governors, through the committee that is responsible for gender, youth, sports, and what have you, have been reaching out to build capacity for counties. Now, one of the challenges that we have in county governments is the high turnover of personnel. So you find that the person who is in that docket today, because of reshuffles, you find that that person will not be there probably 2 years down the line. So that has been part of the challenges that we have experienced. But what we have done in the North Rift Economic Bloc, we have brought together CECs who are in charge of gender, chief officers and directors, and together we have worked with Tetra Tech through the Reinvent program, and we have developed a gender strategy for the North Rift Economic Bloc counties, out of which we realized that as much as there has been, for a very long time, there has been clamor. You know, we all, as I listened to the earlier speakers, we are talking about gender equality. The challenge that we have not addressed is where we have come from. Culturally, most communities had a balanced, most of our African communities had a balanced in terms of the gender distribution, roles and what have you. But however, when colonialism came in, there is a perspective or a dimension that was brought to the fore, where the men were being elevated, they were taken out to do hard work, and somehow also when that came with a bit of compensation, and even when now people started going to school, the people who went to school were the men, and the women lagged behind. That sort of created an imbalance in such a sense where the men started looking like they're the ones who load it over. And situations then escalated to a point where we as the women, or the women in our communities, started taking up roles that were not theirs. And as we speak right now, even as we have campaigned for equal opportunity, we have done a lot of capacity building for our girl child. Unfortunately, our mindset has not changed. And because we have many of our women now having gone to school, they are able to take on roles, they are able to serve in leadership, they are able to serve in different spaces of maybe as engineers, electricians, the doctors, nurses, lawyers, name it. we have not yet, as a community, adjusted to that, so that now the male ego is bruised thoroughly, and they don't know how to handle an empowered woman. And you'll still find that you find that the challenges that we are experiencing, gender-based violence, largely come from a situation where, one, the men, the perpetrators, it's not all the men, the perpetrators have not adjusted to recognize that this is unequal. Or even when they now go and violate a younger person, they are taking advantage of their vulnerability. We as an African community, maybe this is time, my sister, maybe time for us to go back to the drawing board and ask ourselves, are we, even as we are empowering our girl child, are we helping the man, the boy child, to appreciate an empowered girl? One of the things I know about us as women, when we are encouraged, we move. And you will just utasoma label, because we believe in ourselves. As we speak right now, the data that is coming out of our universities right now, last year I had a chance to attend a graduation at University of Eldoret. 75% of the PhD graduates were women. I come from the world of academia, and some of the people that I served with I interact with them over time. And my sister here, Dr. Tekla Tum, can attest. A number of our young men, I don't know, I'm bringing this out so that it also helps us with our thinking and we jog our minds. A number of our men who enrolled for a master's or PhD don't complete.
They don't.
So maybe even as we are encouraging we are empowering the girl child, time has come for us to think, so that even when we are talking about gender equality, gender parity, we are leaving no one behind. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Dr. Sylvia, I think you can pick it up from there as we are about to wind up. And what are we missing in terms of what the DG is talking about? What are the nuances we are missing when it comes to GBV that would inform? And I'm assuming in the GBV conversation, we'll be able to expound more on where the data go. But what are we missing as a researcher? What do you think we are missing out innovatively to get so that it informs our services even?
Yeah, thank you. It's a really interesting question, because GBV came out so prominently around the time of COVID, when there were so many restrictions and women were locked up in one place. Then so many things happened. So I think I totally agree with what the governor said, and I would like to reiterate that there are so many dimensions to it. Yeah, the fact that as we empower the girl child, we at the same time need to be very conscious that we live in a society that embraces both the girl child, and whatever we do with the boy child also influences what we do. So one of the things that I would like to talk about is we recognize that the discrimination or whatever it is that we do with gender, we look at it in 4 ways, or in a framework whereby at the individual level, there are those perceptions that exist within our societies, the cultures that come with us, perceptions about how women should behave, how men should behave, or even how we carry out the work that we do, or even when we go to school, who should go to school. If there was no money in your household, who would be taken to school? So those are individual perceptions that are held within our societies that we contextualize and actually carry on. And there are also resources and benefits that come at the individual level, and those benefits might come to males more masculine, with masculine ideologies, especially if you think about the health sector. It's really, it was historically a masculine, let me say, domain, such that you find most doctors, on average, in all over the world, majority will be men, because it was a profession that was specifically geared to men. So there are those individual and resources and benefits that come with the where we live and how we contextualize things. But also at this system level, we have systems that either are informal practices that go on within our organizations, even within our households, that support what we see and what we do, we as individuals. That influences the girl child, that influences the boy child in many ways. And in terms of the systemic levels, yeah, we also have the laws and practices or policies that guide what we do. And many of those policies are moving towards being gender responsive, but we still have a long way to go in terms of how do the policies actually account for gender response, in terms of whether they address the issues in disease experience, because we know women and men will experience disease in different ways. For example, if we have high life expectancy, even for individuals, for women, we talk about higher life expectancy, but in fact, evidence shows that 42% of women who experience the higher life expectancy live in disease sickness. So it's not good quality of life. So it's not, the quality of life is not good, even at that point. So we have to be mindful of the intricacies that exist within our context that actually influence what we experience. And part of that, it's like the gender-based violence is a symptom of so many things that exist that can be contextualized within our settings, within the way we do things. And even within the education system, as young as the young pupils, young girls and boys are. And I want to give one example. I went to one school meeting whereby they said in this school, girls were performing, these are teenage girls, were performing way better than boys, almost to the tune of 80%. And the reason was because they noted that when they have extra classes, and they say whoever wants to stay for the extra class should stay and have extra revision, it turns out that 90% of the boys leave the class. They don't stay in because they think they should know. So those are the things that exist within us that actually influence what we see. So those are symptoms. Even from the way I look at gender-based violence, a lot of things are around the masculine and female experience within the households that actually influence what we experience and is coming up as antagonistic or male toxicity in many ways and showing up that way. Thank you.
All right. I want to add some few panelists in this panel, and not in the way you think. As I asked my panelists on what would they want this summit to come out with. You know, what are your, my mother always asked me to dream. What are your dreams for this summit? So that even as we go into the sector conversations, you know, it will help us think. And so the same question, I want to throw it back to the members in the room. And you will shoot your hand up after they've spoken and tell me, what would you like to see at the end of this summit? So please, be ready, I'll pick on you, but marinate on that question even as they respond. Each one of you, a few seconds. We start with Awes, and then we come this way. On what are your expectations as we get into the sector discussion? And maybe you can throw in which sector are you really passionate about?
Okay, thank you very much. Actually, I can see the word data there. So data is key. And before I say what are my expectations, is that data is too expensive. And there's low investments, particularly in gender statistics. I can tell you, producing census data, which just give you basic information, costed us around 18 billion. For a survey like DHS, Kenya 2022 KDHS, that one costed around 1 billion. So my expectation out of this is that I hope I've created increased awareness about the usage of data from KNBS. So that is my main expectation. Thank you very much. And again, my expectation also, actually in our data, only census we can go below the county. So I also expect that the county governments should also be conducting surveys, just fund the surveys so that you can go down to the wards, because we get requests and the only information you can give is from the census. But for other areas, like health and so on, we can't give that data below the counties. And even the counties, we give indicators, just few indicators with the 1 billion, not all the indicators. So I will urge the county governments to be also be investing in surveys and data collection. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Awes. I think the clear one I'm hearing also is financing. Where is the money? All right, Dr. Sylvia, what are your expectations?
So for me, speaking from the data side, particularly the data science side, and as a research institution, we see ourselves as an enabler because we actually would like to partner with organizations that are collecting or generating data to get better data, whether it's in terms of generating tools or metrics to evaluate the evidence that exists. But on the other hand, we also really do a lot of work on generating tools that help you visualize the evidence that is palatable to many or the public, that helps us demonstrate where we identify the gaps, what interventions are needed in terms of that aspect. And in terms of bringing the data into a platform and provide a platform as a service. So a set of tools that we can share with partners, we can develop and co-create together to be able to showcase the work that you do. So a lot of it is around the evidence, but also working with local grassroots organizations, not just within Kenya, but across the continent to generate the evidence, but also providing the data science capacity strengthening and bringing in the gender lens in terms of the lived experience of individuals from whom we draw the evidence. So that is really going through the pipeline of data generation right through to the use of evidence to inform policy. So in terms of the work that we do and the capacity, we do it with civil society, with all organizations or partners, with funders, whether through fund management, given the long track record that the organization has in this area. So we really look forward to actually co-creating what we need to see better done in terms of gender and all the aspects that help us to visualize. And one of the things I can really speak to is during COVID, in Africa, we didn't have a platform that could help us access data quickly. And one of the things that was done with our organization is to draw data from 47 WHO Afro regional countries and develop a tracker that helped us understand the nuances that were going on. And from the data that served the purpose was data that was on national websites, from Twitter, from social media that ministries posted. So we gathered that data and put it into a tracker. And then we were able to visualize where the gaps are, how we need to do better, and what policies need to be in place. So that also addressed the issues around gender-responsive policies, what was missing during that period. And that was really a useful tool that was used widely to actually demonstrate what we can do with the data that we have and the capacity that we have to develop. Thank you.
Thank you, Sylvia. So looking forward to sharing tools, working together to create tools that speak into what we need as data. Thank you very much. Madam DG.
Thank you very much. What do I want to see from this conference? One, I have come to learn. I have come to hear what is happening in education, in health, in gender-based violence space. And as far as data is concerned, what kind of data are we able to, can we access as we speak? And whether there are gaps in generating or collecting those data, because we cannot overemphasize the fact that without data, you don't know what you're dealing with. If you do not have information, you cannot make a decision. Go through these 2 days, that we will be able to understand where we are as far as the data that is available is concerned and what that data tells us. But at the same time, my desire is that if after this conference, we are able to avail to the public, the data has been collected by KNBS, by KIPRA, by whoever else. The usual challenge is that if that information is not broken down to if it's not broken down so that people are able to appreciate what is there, you may never know. Yesterday I had a chance to receive the report from KIPRA on matters, whether we have been able to avail information on our website. We didn't, some of the information, we have done things. Unfortunately, it is not available in the website, right? Yeah. It is available in our social media platforms. But we were shocked to learn that there's nothing about Nandi County that says we do public participation, yet we do it. For the last 7 years, we've been doing it. Yeah. You get? So basically, how do we avail this information for people to consume and to make decisions based on that? Thank you.
Okay, okay, thank you very much. Yeah, so I have my expectation at the end of this conference. One thing is for sure that, the conversation just as we're winding up is about, male, female, where are we? Have we reached that equilibrium? And I think with regards to gender discourse, one thing is for sure, the answer is no. We are yet to reach the equilibrium. And therefore, we cannot tilt the coin. And we talk gender, then it's men and women, but focus has to be on the vulnerable, who are still, even statistics and data will show that the vulnerable are still mainly the females, basically the women and the girls. And therefore, my expectation at the end of this, I'm hoping that we'll all be encouraged to not only try and produce more data, but with very clear gender indicators, and most importantly is that we're able to collaborate and then be able to share what's available, because sometimes you can be struggling looking for data, yet it's already available, and you start from scratch. So let us not reinvent the wheel, let us share information and be able to move the gender agenda forward. Thank you very much.
Please appreciate my panel. I'm still looking for, before you leave the stage, I want you to hear, where are my two panelists? Thank you, and another one on this side. Thank you very much. So please come quickly and tell us your expectation, then we'll close this panel session. Oh, cool. Oh, it's coming. The question is also There is also a poll on the screen. You can respond to the same. Quickly.
Hello, everyone. I am here as a youth advocate and a young person who works a lot on social media. So my expectation is, how can we use the statistics and the data on social media, on infographics, to the local kijana mwenye ako kwa mtaa? How do we make this information understandable to the person who is using Braille, who cannot hear, who cannot speak? How do we interpret this information for them? Another thing is, how can we collaborate with CBOs, with youth champions, to make the data that you are collecting, that is coming to the ground, available and comprehensive in all aspects? May it be education, may it be the food gaps, may it be the health department, the health sector. So how are we collaborating with CBOs? Thank you.
You didn't say your name?
My name is Stephanie. I am here under FAWE Kenya.
Okay, so Stephanie, there is a workshop tomorrow for journalists on understanding gender data. Since you are a communicator on social media, I urge you to join that session. I'll be doing some training there on breaking down the data. Thank you. The last expectation?
James Onditi is my name, from Kenyatta University, Women's Economic Empowerment Hub. I expected National Gender Equality Commission to be represented here. Are they?
No, they are not.
Are they represented?
Maybe tomorrow.
They are not represented today. So that was my expectation. Two, we are generating very good data as a country from all quarters, including the citizen-generated data. The challenge that we have is translating this data into effective policies. We are not able to see real impact unless we translate the data into policy, programs, and into planning for real impact into women economic empowerment, into women issues, and to impact the livelihoods of the people. The challenge to the Secretary: what can we do to enhance the uptake of data which is being generated to inform policy and practice? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I don't think it's a question you need to answer now. Cool. She had already responded. And so we are also continuing to respond here. What is your greatest expectation from this summit? As you do that, I want you to appreciate my panelists. Thank you very much. Thank you for your time. Please have a seat. I'm just going to give some direction. We are running short of time, but we'll catch up. We need to do a few things. So Mushiri, please come and make that announcement. Most importantly, I need to take a photo of myself outside that 3D thing.
Thank you very much, Flo. Please, let's give her a hand. And appreciate our panel, our amazing panel. Thank you so much. We are honored to hear from your wisdom. But I did not hear the appreciation for the panel. Later on, if you remind me, I will teach you something I was taught the other day at a workshop, that there is clapping in bass and clapping in soprano. I did not know. And the claps were very harmonized. I was very impressed. Anyway, enough of my stories. So after this, please don't leave. Would like to take a photo over here with the panel. But just some quick announcements. Tea is served. So when we go out, you'll turn left. There's a big tent at the end. Please make your way there. The washrooms are around this corner, on the other side of this wall. There are others in other parts of the compound. Please feel free to ask for directions. But these are the nearest. They're just around the corner. From tea, we're going straight into our breakout sessions. Session on health will be here. Will be in this room. Oh, it moved? To Jasmine 1. So who's here? So health will be in Jasmine